Hello everyone, Ryan here, and we are back with another episode of the Not Really Qualified to Talk About Music podcast. It has been a long time, like 5 months, I think, at this point.
It's been a while. This is our first podcast of 2019.
It is.
And it's April.
It's April.
So
we started the year late, guys, and today we have a guest, a special guest, and it is MicTheSnare. How are you doing, MicTheSnare?
I'm doing really well, you guys. Beautiful day here. I hope you guys are well. Just to check something right quick, and I'll explain to the audience in a bit what this is about. Okay, yes. The audio issues I had before, they're fixed now. God, do you guys want me to describe what the heck just happened?
yeah,
Do it. You go for it.
Why not?
Okay. So currently, I'm recording my part for this podcast with a condenser mic, and I have it fed into a Focusrite preamp, and I'm monitoring it in Adobe Audition. Now, I thought I was clipping, which means that I turned up my gain so hot that I was distorting. So I tried turning down. And I kept trying to turn down because I thought I was still clipping. And eventually it came to a point where Ryan and Josh couldn't hear me anymore. And I was like, how am I clipping, but they can't hear me? And I found out I was, I think, connected to a Discord through this external mic, but Audacity or Audition was recording me via the onboard, the MacBook microphone. So we basically chatted for, I think, 20 minutes as I just continuously just turned myself down and down. And then, yeah, I have a degree in audio engineering, I swear.
That's what he said. He described the situation, and then it was silent, and it was I have a degree in audio engineering.
I swear I do.
This is
amazing. I swear I do. Some people will be very, very disappointed in me, but I swear I do.
Ooh.
You think you know someone. Oh, man.
You know.
Oh, man. But anyway, I am very happy to be here with with a working microphone now.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, this is good.
Me too, because I also figured out that the entire 8 minutes that we were trying to record, my voice was being recorded, but Audacity had also decided to record a noise frequency alongside it, so it was just
Amazing.
And you could slightly hear my voice every now and again, but it was just mostly noise.
Oh man,
Adds color,
yeah, for sure. I mean,
It's like a fun little game for the audience. What is he trying to say?
oh man,
No, literally, what is he trying to say? I'm turned off.
that's probably what my audio used to sound like. Because anyone who's listening right now may notice that my voice sounds normal.
Ryan got so much shit for his voice in the early episodes. I didn't even notice.
It's sad. It's sad.
Didn't affect me.
Yeah.
Well, you sound great now.
Aw. Thank you. And I think Audacity thinks so too.
Good.
But yeah, anyway, if you don't know MicTheSnare has his own channel. He does mini short reviews and turns them into pretty funny, quick basharoo videos. They're really good. And also he does big think piece videos, and one of them went pretty viral recently, right?
Yeah, I did a video about the concept of so bad it's good music, music that can be compared to so bad it's good movies like The Room, Birdemic, Troll 2, Southland Tales, if anybody remembers that. I made that video, I think, last April, about a year ago, and within the past 3 weeks or so, I think it's gotten about 160,000 views.
Nice.
Which is strange and weird and dumb and strange.
That's really cool, though.
Yeah, it's a kind of surreal.
Yeah.
To have that much attention on it, it's weird.
And where is your channel now? As far as subscribers, did you feel a rise since that video?
Definitely. Yeah, I think 3 weeks ago I was just at around like 360 subs, and I think the last time I checked, I was at 3,700.
Wow.
So it's been a pretty massive jump. I'm also glad you guys could hear me when I said that. 'Cause I think that was the last thing you guys heard me say.
I wasn't gonna say. I wasn't gonna say anything.
I was dying to laugh when Josh asked that question. I was like, I can't laugh. I need to listen to him because I didn't hear him last time.
In the first recording, I pretty much asked that question, and that's when we lost Mike the Snare to the gods. He just sort of disappeared, and then me and Ryle were just like, "Do we carry on, or do we just...
Did he just disappear? Did he just leave or something?
Yeah.
Like,
Is he okay?
Okay,
good.
That's the last time we'll
guys-
mention the last recording. I swear.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Now we can keep going. We're good now.
We're good. Yes.
What? Okay.
So-
So my next question was going to be: Do you feel a tad bit of pressure now? Because I've spoken to people who, had one video that went quite viral and they gained a lot of attention, and even though you gained, I mean, I say even though, but in the grand scheme, of YouTube, 3,000 people isn't massive. But I'm sure that when you own the channel, it feels quite, heavy. Do you feel any sort of pressure to, I don't know, give these new people what they might want or anything like that? Do you feel any pressure to change your channel a bit, manipulate your videos?
That's a good question. I appreciate it too. So I guess I'll respond as honestly as I can. In the short term, yes. Like when I see people like commenting about like suggestions for a new video, or like for an additional sequel to like So Bad It's Good music talking about people that I missed in the first video, I think there is sort of that, I guess, anxiety about like, oh, like what if this is all that they want me to do from now on? Do I need to like pivot entirely to that?
Yeah.
And in the short term, I think that can kind of get me. But I think I just remind myself that at the end of the day, I didn't get into doing videos like this to sort of like get a ton of subs or to just sort of jump into that sort. It's sort of been like, this has been my an opportunity for me, an avenue for me to explore different kinds of music and how it relates to our society. And this one particular video just happened to do really well and connect with a lot of people. And I found that when it comes to being like a creative and doing creative things, it's sort of like the short-term anxieties always make you question where you should go. But at the end of the day, in the long term, it's like when you're doing stuff that fulfills you and like that like inspires you and wants and keeps you going, so to speak, I think that's the most fulfilling thing to do as a creative, not necessarily chasing down whatever people want you to do. I've also seen some people on the internet who have sort of done that, and it's totally fine if you have that sort of goal of like doing that, but I've seen that some of them have also burned out pretty quickly when it's like they become so focused on giving an audience what they want, or replicating their success. And actually, I think there was like a quote from some famous author that was like, a man who would write the same book over and over again, or write a great book over and over again, was not even capable of writing it once, So it's like, I always try to remind myself that it's like, the purpose that I'm doing this for is to explore different avenues and try to not only give some new perspective or information to the audience, but also enrich myself in what I'm trying to learn as a music professional, if you will. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it absolutely answers my question. It's just a interesting dynamic because now you look at that video and you've seen that 160,000 people have watched it, and I mean, I can't imagine being in that situation, but I think if I was, I would just be absolutely like, I'd gobsmacked. I'd be sitting back like, wow, great. Where do I go? Where do I go now? How do I top that, or or something like that. So it's great that like you don't feel. It's great. It's great that you're grounding yourself in that way, because you can get you can really push yourself to a point where, as you say, you burn out. And YouTubers do get to that point. We've seen it in our community before.
Yeah, it's true.
I think another thing on the line of the community is also, I think I'm fortunate enough to be in the place where I don't necessarily rely on this for money.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people in the community do.
Yeah.
So I kind of understand when it comes to that. Like, there's obviously a different mentality towards it, and it's totally fine. But I think I'm fortunate enough to be like, I can sort of just pursue what I want to do. I know that there will be some people who are interested in it, and I don't necessarily have to worry about putting a roof over my head solely with that.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely part of my perspective.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's definitely an impact for sure.
Yeah. I'm really waiting for Ryan to blow up so that I can piggyback on the back of that,
Hell yeah.
No, for sure. I'm gonna blow up soon. God, guys, come on.
Yeah.
My
Hell yeah.
my review of Waze
like,
Blood is gonna get hundreds of thousands. Obviously,
Well, basically, it's a win-win situation for me, right? Because if Ryan blows up and we continue doing the podcast, I am in. Like, I've got viewers, right? I can move on from that. If Ryan kicks me away from the podcast and like does it with someone else, I'm just gonna fucking go around trashing Ryan, and and then everybody's gonna be on my side because he was such a dick. So
exactly,
I've backed Ryan into a corner to a point where
you'll start a channel like solely for just drama with Ryan.
Yeah,
that's literally all it'll.
That would actually. I feel like that would go. Yeah, that would go down well. Like, I've got some dirt on Ryan, I feel.
What? Hold up.
Not like real dirt, but like shit I can twist.
Yeah, of course.
But it's good. It's good.
That's all the greats do.
Yeah, it's good that this podcast is going to go out now, though, so that everybody knows I'm a liar when it gets to that point.
Yeah, you've just shot yourself in the foot. But anyway, I'm looking for a new, sidekick. So, MicTheSnare, if you're interested.
Hold up. This is unbelievable.
Well, now when you put it like that, then I can pivot my channel to being all about drama, and it's just like the three of us have this like self-fulfilling loop when it comes to drama, and like we'll all hit 1 million subscribers in the first year. This is a great plan. I love this.
Yeah,
so funny.
Yeah, we'll take the music community by storm.
I feel like you're in a really like not safe position, but like in the sense that in your reviews you talk about an album for like 15 seconds, and there's no possible way anyone can twist your words and like get really angry. Whereas in my situation, not saying that I'm jealous or anything, I'm just saying like, in my situation, I do like a 10-minute review, and someone's bound to put in the comments like, you said this at this point and I hate that you said that. But like obviously with your quick style, it's quite safe. So I think you put yourself in a good position.
Yeah, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
But then now that I think about it, with my longer videos, there is definitely that flexibility for someone to take something that I say and kind of push it to a certain extreme. Like, actually, a good example of that is the So Bad It's Good video. I think the first line that I say is something like, when I was younger, I used to take a portable DVD player with me on family trips, and I always brought with me Revenge of the Sith, Shark Tale, and The Room. And looking back on it, this was really bad script writing on my part, because the way that sounds to a good amount of people is that I watched The Room as like a child on family trips, and that like my parents let me do that.
Oh my god!
And to be clear to anybody watching who has seen that video, I did not watch The Room as a child. I absolutely did not.
You did not?
Because like I meant to. I did not.
I did not.
Put it here for. I did not. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I mean, like, because I think the way that I phrased it, plus the fact that I paired it with two movies that I actually did watch as a kid, kind of like I can totally see why people got confused on that.
Yeah,
that's funny.
I don't know, when I watch your reviews, it's funny. Even though they're short, you are pretty blunt. You are pretty blunt with what you say, and it's sometimes, maybe it's just because I am so heavy into music, I do find myself caring about what you say, which is a really, really good thing. But as Ryan says, like, there's not enough weight for me to, to take and like throw around at you and be like, oh, you said this was wrong. All people can come at you and say is like, oh well, shit. Like, I guess, it's not like a Fantano review where they can look at the score, because you don't even score things. You don't even give numbers. So it's like, no, people can't throw that at you either.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like a double-edged sword in a sense, because it's like the reviews I do are quick, which is good in a sense where it's like I'm very, like, I try to be as articulate as I can be and as clear about how I feel, but sometimes look like a record that I'm kind of in the middle on. It's harder to like find a position and not take like an easy way out of just being like, just making like a video where I just shrug and that's it. Like, actually a good example of that is currently I'm trying to figure out like a review for the new Billie Eilish record, and I guess I'm having trouble kind of like coming from an angle on it, because it's like there are parts I like, there are parts I don't. It's a matter of expectations, and it's like, what's the best angle that I can come from so that I make something that's quick and impactful, but also something that clearly shows my thoughts without much room for like leeway. You know what I mean?
Well, I think I agree. I think like the best part about your reviews, though, for me, is the humor that you throw out, and I think that is the way most of the time. I think you find your way out of these spots is just throwing in a bit of humor about yourself and about the, how you're feeling about the album. You'll compare it to like something completely outside of the music spectrum, and just, you just find this creative way of comparing the album to something completely different.
And even when it's like something that you do really like, it's sometimes like impressive that you still managed to make a joke. Because I like that when you did your best albums of 2018, like, I didn't have a clue what was going to be on the list, because I was just like, well, I know he said he likes these albums in the past, but I don't know to what extent he likes them. So when I saw like you had Casey Musgraves, so when she was in, I was like, okay, this is cool. Like, I like this album. I think it's cool that you had it number one, but I had no idea it was going to be number one. So yeah. I
mean, I think my inspiration for that video was I'm sure you guys know of the YouTuber Todd in the Shadows. I've been watching him for years now. I absolutely adore his work. And one of the things I love, one of my favorite like videos that he does, is the his like top 10 worst songs, best songs of the year.
Yeah.
In part because he always finds like ways to tie in the album he's going to talk about with like something in the news, something like personal about him, some other musical comparison. Like I always love that about what he would do. So I tried to kind of embody that in my own way when I made the top 10 albums list.
That's cool.
But yeah, I think that's definitely what separates you from a lot of music reviewers. To me, you're kind of mysterious. Like Ryan said that he had no idea what was going to be on your top 10, and I absolutely agree, because unlike Fantano, obviously, you watch his reviews and he gives scores, so you kind of know, what's going to end up on the top 10 list. Not only do you not give scores, but your reviews are so quick, and it's like, I only have like a minute or something to like take in this man's opinions, and so we don't really get to hear your voice so much. We don't get to hear your opinion so much, and so you're just like this enigma. To put it, to be dramatic about it.
Yes.
Interesting, huh?
I do. You've never thought about yourself that way, but it's true. It's just
See, I do want to ask about like your favorite albums of the year so far, but is that too much of a
maybe we
question?
Don't want to like end this enigma that exists around us, or as podcast hosters, we kind of want to get as much out of you as possible.
No, totally, of course. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's like I didn't know I was an enigma. Oh my gosh, I kind of like that air about me. But I mean, if you guys want to know like what I've been digging this year so far, like I'll totally.
Yes.
Or will you be lying?
Oh, just lying to us the entire
it's like
episode.
I'll just give like the worst albums I've heard and be like, yeah, I love all of these unironically. It's great.
That's funny.
So I mean, let me think. I think the first one that comes to my mind is James Blake's newest record, Assume Form.
Yeah.
I remember hearing a bunch of people saying that it was like the sound of him selling out
Really?
and like going way more into like the hip hop, or I guess the more of like a hip hop production style when it came to his compositions. But honestly, if that's the sound of him selling out, I wish he would do it more. I just some of the songs that he writes it's just gorgeous. Like that whole back half of the record from like the Andre 3000 guest feature on, it's gorgeous. Yeah. Absolutely gorgeous.
See, I'm a well-known James Blake hater.
Really?
I'm very I can't stand. I think I can't stand anything up until the Color in Anything, which I have to admit I kind of enjoyed. But his latest album has been my favorite. I guess it's purely because that people seem to think he is selling out, I suppose.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't really remember like being too gripped by a lot of what he's done before. Like I think Overgrown was my favorite LP that he had done, and I don't remember the last time I listened to The Color and Everything. But
that's
I think like maybe two.
Yeah, that's like the one James Blake fans don't or didn't. It was like their least favorite up until this new one. I guess I don't know, but I dug it as a James Blake hater.
Yeah, I mean, some of the songs were like all right. I mean, the one song he did with Bon Iver, I Need a Forest Fire, that's a jam. That's such a jam. And then there were a couple others, but like nothing else that really like stuck with me. But I think this album, Assume Form in particular, is going to stick with me at least for the rest of the year, if not farther.
That's great. Yeah. So what is let's go down the other end and ask, what is the worst thing you've heard this year?
Ooh.
Can I give a two-part answer?
Yes.
For the worst thing that I've heard this year that came out this year,
yes,
and the worst thing I've heard this year that came out some.
Yes.
Yeah, both.
I like this. This is good.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing, the one that I've listened to this year that came out this year, probably would have to be that new Logic.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew you were going to say it. I was like, he's going to say Logic.
I like literally like the quick review. I've already scripted out the review I'm going to do for it, and it's basically comes from the perspective of I don't like to be overly negative on this like type of platform that I have, and if this is the sound of Logic like really just pushing himself artistically and just trying to be the best artist that he can be, I don't want to take that away from him. Good for him. So like all I'll say is that the two songs that were produced by Mac DeMarco are fine, and I am not touching the rest. It was the most. It's like something that's so bland and yet so offensive. It's like blandly offensive or offensively bland.
Yeah. It's true.
In that, like, the beats that he laid down, the rhymes that he did were totally just, nothing really original. And the fact that so much of it was, like, singer-songwritery stuff that was just ripped from, like, the early 2000s.
Yeah.
It's just not at all a musical feeling that I think he could pull off at all. Just, not enjoyable to listen to at all.
I mean, Lemon Drop is great though. Let's be honest. I can't even joke about that. No.
Oh yeah.
No.
Yeah. Oh, that one was okay. I'll give you that one. Yeah.
I haven't listened to it yet. I'm scared. I've always Logic has been whenever I've listened to a Logic project, I've regretted it. I never thought I'd say that ever, but I regretted listening to music.
Brutal.
And that was pretty.
Music was a mistake.
That was pretty. I think there were 2 Logic projects out last year, right? Bobby Tarantino.
There's 2 every year. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and so the 2 I listened to, last year, that I just regretted it. I didn't enjoy it, so I'm really holding back on that one. I'm scared, honestly. It's kind of scary.
I mean, let me just scare you even more and say this album right here is far worse than those 2 last year's.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Logic was going easy on me.
Yeah, this is the worst album he's ever done, and I thought everybody was going to be like the worst thing he'd ever do, but this is even still, I don't think it's the worst thing I've heard all year, but it's definitely
okay. Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that eventually. Hit us with that second part, Mike. Hit us with this. What's the other record?
So, I guess I don't really have much of an explanation for this, so I'll just say it. The past 48 hours, I've basically listened to nothing but the Black Eyed Peas.
Okay.
And because I was considering doing a video on one of their records. I think it was Elefunk, the first one that they had added Fergie to.
Yeah.
And to get some context, I was like, I'll listen to some of their other work, including some of their later stuff, to sort of see how they progressed as artists. So I eventually got to the record they put out nearly a decade ago called The End. That was the one with Boom Boom Pow and I Got a Feeling, like all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And honestly, the record as a whole isn't the worst thing I've heard. Like, because the first, they do this thing where they sequence all of the singles as the first 5 tracks, which is fine to a certain extent. Like, if you kind of have a soft spot for guilty pleasures, like I do for that kind of music, since it was what I was growing up with in high school, is like my first real taste of pop music. Tracks, the first, or how am I trying to say this? The second that the last single ends and it's like 10 tracks of all the deep cuts, oh my god, it is a musical wasteland of some of the most rote, basic, uninspired EDM pop and some of the worst lyrics that I think will.i.am has ever done. Like, it is a slog to get through. And the only justification I can think of is that, obviously, they didn't mean this to be like an album. It was just like they wanted, this is like a vessel to get those other singles out. But it's just like they literally all that they write songs about, and I don't mean this is necessarily a negative thing, because you can find ways to make this like positive or put a fresh spin on it. All they write songs about are being awesome, attractive women, and partying.
Yes.
That's it. No matter like where you listen in their discography, that's literally it. And
so,
they really just run out of ways to do it really quickly.
So I guess you could say that the Black Eyed Peas, as far as the topics of their songs, were kind of like the sort of I don't know, they were paving the way for trap rap. With the topics of their songs. All they were missing were drugs.
And a Quavo feature.
Yeah, true.
And a Quavo feature.
Yeah. That's what you need, man.
I mean, it's interesting to go back to like their records and find like the ways that like 2010 pop was different from what we have now, and like especially the rap back then and the rap now. And yet there are weird like similarities. Like all of the Black Eyed Peas albums are long. All of them are over an hour. So it's kind of like that was sort of a feature that a lot of rap albums do now, where it's like they really stretch out the run times to sort of game the streaming system.
So what you're saying is that Black Eyed Peas are pioneers of the music.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're pioneers of the music industry and the way it works.
Amazing.
Yeah, I should really be singing their praises right now. They're honestly the best musical group of all time, if not forever.
There we
It's
go.
funny. It's funny though. If you
heard it
go
here.
back to like the '90s, though, like some of the most critically acclaimed hip hop albums, like it's not even like the popular ones like Black Eyed Peas. I mean, if you could even call them rap, I mean, you can to an extent on some of their songs, but generally it's quite pop, I suppose. But like, yeah, like Ghostface Killer, his albums are like an hour and 15 minutes. Tupac, you know, his most famous album is a double album. It's over 2 hours long. You know, like Raekwon's album, that's really popular. Like UGK, Riding Dirty is like an hour and 20 minutes long. It's like really weird how like
Jeez, yeah.
they're just so long. And even today, like the popular rap albums are long too. So
I guess what you're saying, Ryan, is that the Beatles' White Album pioneered
hip hop, yeah.
hip hop.
Beatles birthed Drake. I mean, you heard it here first.
it.
Crazy. Everything comes down to the Beatles.
It does.
We figured out music, you guys.
did
That's it. Thanks for
absolutely-
listening. Thanks for listening to this podcast. We've pretty much ended the stigma.
Yeah, music is done.
Yeah.
We can go home.
We're qualified now, so
We're
screw you.
officially qualified on this podcast. You had it live. History.
I will say, I want to just throw out a special mention, though, to one of the tracks on the end.
Okay.
It's the third to last track. It's called The Now Generation. Do you guys remember Arcade Fire's Everything Now?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Imagine
yes.
that if the Black Eyed Peas wrote it.
Oh my gosh.
Ooh.
But
Yep.
the Black Eyed Peas are literally the sort of they made trap rap, and they made the future of rock music too,
Amazing.
basically.
Yeah.
Or indie pop.
Wow.
Yeah, they created socially conscious lyrics about media consumption.
Unbelievable.
And
Wow.
they were the first ones to do it. No one had done it since.
Wow.
I'm shocked. I'm honestly shocked.
Can't believe it. I can't believe it.
I feel like the Pikachu meme.
I feel like Patrick, just like wide-eyed and just his mouth open.
Oh man.
Oh my.
So that's what I've been listening to for the past like 48 hours, and it's the worst thing I've heard this year that didn't come out
Yeah.
this year.
Okay, so you consider that worse than Logic?
I think they're bad, to lack of a better word, bad in different ways. If that
Yeah,
makes
so you
sense, 'cause
can't
it's
put them
like,
in the same
I
group.
think- yeah, I mean, because like the Black Eyed Peas album, it's as an album, it's really just a slog to listen to. But I also have to remind myself that may not have been what they were going for. Like they had the 5 singles, and they were like, we need to put out an album with the rest of it. Let's just put these other 10 on and call it a day. Whereas with Logic, I feel like there's more of a sincerity behind what he's doing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the scariest part, is the sincerity. Like, it's funny. Like, it's funny you mention, you compare that, because that is kind of my thing when I'm listening to a bad album. I kind of think, was this meant to be a genuine like attempt, or was it just like, fuck it, I'll throw it together? Because with albums like, with records from like Offset or Quavo or Migos, or anyone's kind of surrounding that trap rap genre, it's kind of like, were they really putting an album together to make an album, like to actually like make a piece of art that people would be interested in, or are they just doing it for streaming purposes? Therefore, is it like truly the worst thing I've ever heard? No, because how am I supposed to judge art on when it wasn't really meant to be art in the first place, if you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
It's just a
That's a good point.
yeah. So it's so that's probably what it is. That's probably what it is. Like Logic, anything I've heard Logic do, it kind of does feel very put together. Like, okay, this is what he wanted. This is what he started this project out to make, and so that this whole piece is is a purposeful piece. Therefore, I can judge it as a purposeful piece, as a whole piece of art.
And it's shit.
Yeah, well, yeah. And I don't need to hear it.
Yeah.
Right. I think like this was something I was thinking about too. I think back in November when I made a video about like the purpose of recording music and why we do it as a society.
Yeah.
And I was learning. I remember learning about the fact that the idea of a 3-minute pop song really only exists because that's what records at the time could hold. So you kind of had to manipulate your songs to fit that, and that's why we have, the idea of a 3-minute pop song today. So it's kind of like the idea of artists manipulating or what's the word? I guess creating songs in a sense, for lack of a better word, to appease the technology that is responsible for getting them out there, if that makes sense. I feel like that's a really long-winded way of saying that.
Yeah. I get you.
Yeah.
Is the idea of like an hour and a half rap record where a lot of it might be considered filler by an audience that's listening to it as a full album, is that necessarily a failure on the artist's part, or is it more a change in mentality is necessary by those who consume it?
Because you're right. I mean, no one's out here like playing Scorpion every day. Like they're probably just listening to their favorite songs, and I think that's kind of what Drake is attempting to do these days. Like just kind of put he did do that playlist album, so obviously he can't. If he's gonna call that one a playlist album, he could call them all playlists. So then at least everyone knows. But I think he kind of figured out that was the way to do it. So every time he's going to put out music now, he's just going to put out a 90-minute album, and us music geeks are going to be like listening to it and dying and then putting our tweets on Twitter saying, this is the worst album of the year. Even though maybe, like you just said, is that the purpose of what he was even doing in the first place? Probably not.
Yeah. So, that's it. I guess every now and again you have to like sit back and say, was this really meant to be judged in this, the same way that I usually judge, anyone else's music,
Right.
I think that's it. I think Black Eyed Peas pioneered that. And that's it pretty much. Black Eyed Peas are the beginning of everything.
Absolutely. And it's
everything one thing
now.
You come away. Yeah, and it's everything now. Wow.
Everything.
Whoa, that actually came full circle quite nicely.
Yeah. I'm quite happy with that. I'm impressed. I'm writing that down.
Good. I'm proud of all this right now. Good.
Great, yeah.
So on the flip side, wait, no, that doesn't make sense. On the contrary, basically, Josh, tell us your albums that you've heard this year that you're liking so far.
Well, albums are cool and all. Yeah. But right now I'm kind of thinking about one song and one song only.
Okay.
Which is the Boy West Coast.
I knew you were going to say it. For fuck's sake.
You was in the club. Bottoms Up when I first met you.
I don't know what this is. I've never heard of this before.
No.
The fact that you just said all those words.
What are you talking? What, Mike? You haven't heard Boy West Coast Bottoms Up?
Oh man,
I haven't, but I love that all of those words form a sentence, and it means something, and I want to use this based on.
So let's bring it down to what it. So I have no idea how it came about. The only thing I know was that this guy who calls himself Boy West Coast, the Boy West Coast. So he's the Boy. There's nobody else called that.
That's
right. If there is, they are not the one. And so I guess he posted a tweet, and it's basically like a 3-minute video. It's the entire song, but he's holding a cup which you, by the way, you see him drinking, but there is nothing in that drink. There is nothing in that cup whatsoever. Every now and again, he just puts it up to his mouth, and then he sings the rest of the song. But
it's because he's straight edge.
Yeah, well, there we go. But like a minute and a half through the video, it goes slow motion for some reason, and so his mouth is no longer in sync with the music, which makes it even better. It's just like it really does make it a lot better. And now basically the meme has like uplifted his career to the point, and I know this isn't that big, but he was like on Genius, and like he was like talking about the lyrics in the song and stuff like this. And in the Genius video, like he's wearing his glasses, like the ends of his sunglasses are on his cheeks, and they're just like dangling down below his chin.
Oh my God.
And here he is talking. He's trying to like, tell you the meaning of you was in the club, bottoms up when I first met you. Like, what does that mean? What does that truly mean? Anyway, Mike, it's like a massive meme right now. And
Mike, do you use Rate Your Music?
I do not.
Okay. So basically, on Rate Your Music, it's been on streaming for about. It's been on streaming for a few days, and OIM, Rate Your Music, basically. So somebody made a page for it, and it was at one point at like a 4.4 or something like that.
Yeah.
Something 4.4 out of 5.
Yeah.
Which is like that's like a better score than Kanye West's Runaway track.
Great.
And it
Oh,
and they update their like chart system weekly.
Yeah,
And
so
it charted at like 23 all time,
Yeah.
like the 23rd best song of all time.
And so it charted as number 1 for 2019.
oh my God.
And like it was just, and it's amazing. I've given it a 5 out of 5 because honestly, it's once you've heard the song a good couple times, it's in your head for the rest of your entire fucking life. You can't get it out. It's in your head. You will be doing anything. Literally, you'll be working. You'll be just sitting down, having a drink, trying to watch some television, and in your head, just revolving, it'll be like, "You was in the club, bottoms up when I first met you." That's all you'll be thinking about for the rest of your life. I swear.
Oh, man.
Good.
I love. And looking at the Rate Your Music, the thing for it, they've nerfed it now, so it's only a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, they knew people were trolling.
Yeah, they knew people were trolling. But like the descriptors for this song is, and these are like the way people describe the genre of the music. The descriptors are party, happy, love, alcohol, summer, romantic, male vocals, warm, hedonistic, drugs, tropical, melodic, uplifting, playful, and my favourite one, sexual.
I love that so much.
Now, when you say it like that, this is absolutely a song that I.
It's the greatest song
funny.
of all time, and one of our best friends, Josh, described it as perfection, near and dear to my heart, which is adorable.
That's a review right there. That is
that's my favorite song. I'll run through my favorite album so far this year. If anyone knows me, they'll know that my favorite album so far is Julia Jacquelin's "Crushing."
Ooh.
Yeah, which is
nice sync up.
Which is without a doubt one of the greatest. One of the best folky albums I've heard in a long time. I just think her lyrics are always on point. I think her vocals sound really beautiful and very close, sort of very, very much in your ears, and the production is stunning. And as I said, the lyrics hit hard. They hit very hard. That is so. If nobody listening to this has heard the Julia Jacklin album, I suggest you go do it now, especially if you're into lyrical folk music.
Yeah. Nice.
Hell yeah.
And as far as the worst record I've heard this year, this one's an easy one. This one is by far one of the worst albums I've ever listened to in my entire life.
Oh my god.
And so much so that I gave it a 1.
Oh.
I gave it a 1 out of 10.
Oh no.
Which I've only done to a few albums. And it's possible. And Mike, you've definitely not heard this record. Ryan, possibly, probably not actually. It's the new Ian Brown album.
Oh, okay.
Who is? If you don't know Ian Brown, he was the lead singer of the band Stone Roses.
Yeah. I knew I knew the name.
Oh. Yeah, so
he has an album out this year. Fuck.
Yep. So they were a huge. So if you don't know Stone Roses, anyone, they were a huge indie band in the 90s, right?
Yeah, it was like 89, wasn't it? And then from there they were pretty
so
big
they were
for a few years.
Yeah, and they were kind of, I guess, like the pioneers of, or the beginning of Britpop almost.
Yeah.
But Ian Brown is still going, and he had an album out called Ripples this year. I'm sorry, I'm gonna burp because I feel like vomiting thinking about this album.
Jesus.
This album, it sounds like it was made by someone who is not a musician, has never heard music in their entire life.
Christ.
It sounds like they went into a room, and they were in a room full of people who are musicians, and they were telling the musicians what to do. And it's funny. Not only are Ian Brown's vocals horrific, because it sounds like he hasn't moved on from the 90s, and it also sounds like his political stances haven't moved on from the 90s either. The lead single is basically him moaning about all these kids going, "Oh, you don't know how hard it is. You all thinking about how tough it is now. Think about how tough it was for me when I was young. You don't know shit." And it's just like, ugh, fucking murder me now. I'm sick of this terrible album. And so basically it starts off with the full band, but then by like the last song, it just sounds like a guy playing the maracas and a guy playing the guitar and Ian Brown singing, and it's so repetitive that it just sounds like half the band gave up because they were sick of his shit, and he given up because all he gives a shit about is making money, so the album doesn't mean anything.
Wow.
And it's just one of the worst things I've ever experienced in my entire life. So there you go. That's my worst album. Go and listen to it.
I might not after that, but I appreciate your attempt at getting me to listen.
I do think it is something people should experience. I always think that really, really terrible albums ones people should experience.
That's true, actually. I've been putting myself through a bit of pain for the past few weeks. I've been trying to dig deep and find the worst albums of the decade, because obviously the decade's coming to a close. And I've been just digging deep, and I stumbled across a Steven Tyler album from 2016. Steven Tyler cannot do country, by the way. So yeah, that was...
Wait, I think I know exactly the record you're
talking about.
Because I think I listened to it back.
Oh no!
And I totally agree. He can't. He really can't.
Yeah.
Oh
no. Man, that was an experience. I also tried Youngblood today. Youngblood. Don't do that, kids. Don't do that. It's not very good. It's bad.
Do they have a song with Halsey by chance?
Ooh, you might be right. I think you're right.
Because I think I've heard that song like occasionally on the radio, and I've been very not a fan, to put it in a very weird way. Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't even touch anything further.
No, yeah, good shout. Good shout.
I think it's great to listen to bad things.
Yeah,
because it really helps you appreciate the good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hell yeah. And also it's like it helps you to like understand like why you don't like a bad thing, because it's easy to just see something that a lot of people don't like and be like, oh, I also don't like it because of, secondhand, being in a culture, hashtag we live in a society or whatever. But it's also just nice to kind of like have your own reasons for not liking things and to be like, oh, I don't like this thing for these explicit reasons.
Yeah, definitely. Josh, are you here? Have we lost Josh?
Oh no!
Is he gone? Can you hear him?
Are the tech issues back? Oh no!
Oh no!
We were so close.
Oh no! Josh.
Wow! Oh wait! I see the circle. I hear the noise.
I hear something. Is he gonna burp again?
Sorry. Sorry, what?
Sorry.
We thought we lost you.
Oh no! Sorry. I tried to like sneak away.
I was just I wasn't sure if you were just gone or whatever, so I was very confused. That's okay.
Shit.
It's all good.
You can't get away from us.
You was in the club. It's all right.
I was in the club. Bottoms up.
No, but to carry on from MicTheSnare's previous point, I agree,
Right.
and
which I know, yeah.
We'll just keep you out of the loop. Pretend like you pretend like you know. But yeah, I did decide to check out what's considered possibly the worst album of the decade the other day.
Oh yeah, I know this. Yeah,
and I tweeted about it as well, but it's not a big deal, it's just a tweet. And it
well,
is
let's hold on. That's a tweet from Not Real Music at Not Real Music.
well, okay, fair enough.
A landmark.
Yeah, it's get the notifications on, guys. No, and and I listened to Speeding Bullet to Heaven, and what you just said there, MicTheSnare, perfectly describes my feelings on that album, because I was thinking, there's so much hate towards this album. Am I just going to be like, am I just putting myself through something for the sake of it here? Am I going to hate it? What's the point in listening to it? And it ended up being like, whatever. Like, it wasn't a bad album. There were bad songs on it, but I don't really consider it to be the worst thing I've heard of the past 5 years. Nowhere near. So,
It's not the worst thing I've ever heard, for sure. But I can't remember your tweet. I think you said that you welcomed the experimentation, of the album, which I swiftly replied back saying,
yeah, you
I
did.
absolutely did welcome. I also welcome the experiment. Any album that is willing to experiment, I'll give credit for, no doubt. But that I welcome that. It's like I opened the door for that experimentation.
Yeah,
I welcomed it in. I let it into my house. I made it a cup of tea. And then it viciously beat my fucking ass to death. Like, it punched me, it kicked me, put me in my grave, or in my own backyard of my house. Basically,
is that where you are right now?
Yes.
Okay.
I
was going to say your acoustics sound like you're in some sort of like wooden box of some sort.
Well, that's basically my house, and I'm paying like £450 a month for rent to live in a fucking box.
And it's Kid Cudi's fault.
And it's Kid Cudi's fault. Fuck you, Kid Cudi.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah, it's like the those like big albums that like where you have an artist that's just so willing to go for bold or go for a broke. That's the expression.
Yeah.
It's hard to like really hate on it, because it's like someone who was so gung ho in their own artistic convictions and thought they were going to make something that's like really just speaks directly from their soul ends up getting being considered one of the worst of the decade. It's like I can't hate on that too much. I'd much rather heap disdain onto something that's just mediocre or unremarkable than something that like really tries and just completely misses the mark, but it tried.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with that album. I think it tried, and I don't think it completely missed the mark like on every song. I do think there are some like, I mean, like there were some tracks that were just straight up like punk jams. Like the instrumentation, if it was done by like a punk band from like 1975, I'm sure people would have been okay with it. But I just think because Kid Cudi was doing it, people were like, this isn't right. And I don't know, I just thought some of them sounded great. But yeah, I mean, most of the album was pretty mediocre. It's not. I'm not calling it a good album, but I definitely don't think it deserves the title of, like a top 10 worst album of the decade.
Yeah,
possibly.
Definitely.
I don't know. See, I would possibly think that. I would possibly
Fair enough.
think it.
Hey, fair enough. Everyone has different experiences. For me, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
For you, it was bad, and that's okay. It's fine.
It's definitely not as bad as like I'm on my rate your music right now, which which I definitely use to remind myself. And my least favorite albums, apparently my least favorite albums of all time, are the Ian Brown album from this year, and the only other one I've ever given to or half a star is Eminem's Revival.
Oh.
Which is widely agreed to be one of a fairly not good album when you say.
Yeah.
To put it lightly.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible.
But I tend not to go back and listen to albums from the past that people say are bad.
Yeah.
Honestly, like if someone says this album's bad from the past, I kind of just ignore it. Like I'm not really interested in that. But as you say, like the Kid Cudi one interested me because people said this is bad, but it's bad because it's so left field.
Yeah.
That like it's its own, it's its own presence. So you kind of have to. You're so curious.
Yeah.
You just want to hear what it sounds like.
For sure. Yeah.
And as I was saying, it's much easier for me to give a low score to a present day album than it is an older album. Mostly because I will only listen to good albums that people say are good, and generally they're right.
Yeah. True.
It's not often they're wrong.
Yeah.
The one time I have figured out that someone was wrong about what they thought was a good album was The Streets, original pirate material.
And you're not a fan?
I thought I was clear about that. I thought I was very clearly not a Streets fan.
Hey, Mike the Snare, I've been looking for a new podcast partner.
Good, yes.
That's an interesting question. Mike, have you heard The Streets? Do you know The Streets?
I know of The Streets.
Yeah.
And I've heard the critical acclaim, at least behind, I think, the original pirate material and whatever the record after that is.
Yes.
Yeah.
That said, I have not really given it much attention, so I don't really have much of an opinion.
The reason I ask is because it's such a other than the fact that you're on a podcast with us and we're having a conversation, is that to me it's such a British album.
Yeah,
like it's very English.
I've heard that,
and to the point where like the references and stuff like that can miss people. I've talked about. I think I've probably talked about The Streets on this podcast before, where I've said that it's just a little too. It's funny. I have very little against the actual music. I genuinely do think that The Streets are innovative in their sound and the way that he raps, speaks. The sort of poetic nature of the music. But my main issue is possibly that it's just too close to home, and that I kind of like music to take me away from that kind of reality.
That's interesting.
And then And so people usually throw at me, oh, but the first Arctic Monkeys album is like basically, describing the town of Sheffield in the night. It's very specific about what he's describing, and the party life, the nightlife of Sheffield, and I'm from the north, so I've lived in both Liverpool and Manchester, which their towns aren't so different to Sheffield, especially in the evening. But I think there's just something about the grittiness of the streets and the way he describes, that kind of life, that very English life. It's really hard for me to describe.
Yeah,
I'm struggling to find the words to describe the picture that he paints.
It's because deep down that you're wrong about the streets. That's what it is.
Yeah, I guess so. I know too much.
So in that sense, it just like you said, it hits so close to home that it's.
Yeah.
I guess is it like his portrayal of what he's talking about doesn't resonate with you? Like it's a too much of a different perspective about the same thing.
Yes,
or...
that, to be honest, that is almost exactly it, because the way that Alex Turner describes the nightlife in Sheffield on the first Arctic Monkeys album, for me is it's kind of like he's taking the piss about it, or he's like pointing it out and laughing at it, or he's saying that this isn't a good picture that I'm painting. At times I kind of feel like the streets he's like painting this really gritty picture, but he kind of accepts that life, or he paints it in such a way where he's like not disagreeing with that kind of life and stuff like that. And I'm just like, for me, I can't agree with that. I just can't, I guess I can't take my personal opinion out of his music. So, in a way, when I say that I don't like the streets, I don't say that the streets are bad.
Yeah.
I have said that the streets are bad, but that's just me exaggerating. I don't genuinely believe that the streets are bad. I think that they're very, very good, because the music is so gritty and so grounded that I can't take myself out of it. That's how good it is, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me want to listen to the album.
It's just something I've never had before,
Yeah.
Right. I'm kind of interested. I kind of want to hear it now, just because. I mean, I think a lot of the references would fly over my head. As you guys said, it's very much like a British album, or it's very much about that perspective. But I wonder if I were to listen to it, if I would like find parallels with like anything on the in the Americas.
I think possibly
interesting.
Yeah, it's
like obviously not like 1-to-1 parallels, but like maybe a sort of general theme, like finding that common ground.
I think he has a. I think, he uses a lot of slang. I guess is the thing. Like he uses a lot of English slang, which could end up passing people by. Like I've used I think I was in a Skype call with Brad Taste in Music one time, and I said, oh, this thing costs £9, and he was like, what the fuck is a quid? And I'm like, what do you mean, what is a quid? He was typing it up, like trying to find out what it was before I could before I could just say, oh, it's a pound, it's currency. Did you know before that, Mike? Did you know that's what a quid was? Like,
I didn't know specifically what it was, but I did know it was a currency. Actually, you saying that made me think of something, to turn all the way back to James Blake for a second.
Right.
I remember on Overgrown there was a track that RZA was on where he said like, I wouldn't trade this love for £1,000,000. And that was the first time I learned what a quid was.
That's amazing.
See, to me,
really,
when I was like talking to Brad, I was like, I just roll a quid off because I say it in everyday life. I don't even think about, Americans or anyone, any other, country not knowing what a quid was. To me, it just felt so standard. And I think that might be the issue that you find with the Streets. That I think he uses so much slang.
Yeah, that's just like
it could be a barrier,
Yeah, possibly.
Interesting.
Possibly.
Or you could get your dictionary out. You could get a dictionary, an online dictionary out, and just follow through every lyric, see what it means.
Nice. I carry one with me at all times.
Yeah,
excellent.
Good, useful.
So yeah, but
that makes me. Oh, sorry. No, I was just thinking. Like, have you guys ever listened to records that, as people living outside of the Americas, you found hard to get into because it's such a distinctly American experience listening to it? I'm trying to think if there's like a corollary to the Streets, like for us in the US.
I think when we talk to Eric, the young god, or the young god, as his YouTube channel seems to spell out, he was talking about trap rap in a certain way, and I think I said something like, "Oh yeah, I like I like Travis Scott. Like I'll listen to most things that Travis Scott's on," and he's like, "Oh no, that's not trap rap.
Yeah.
Trap rap is like Future," and then he like continued to list off artists that I don't like at all, and then he like described what trap rap is to him, to what that means to him and his friends, his group of friends, who are obviously so involved in that sort of culture. I think that's possibly a barrier, for me anyway, that they're so involved in, I guess, trap rap culture or whatever that is, it's something that I can't understand. I guess it's something that I can't grasp, and I actually don't think that many British people could grasp.
Yeah,
I think they're talking about such a specific culture in those songs, that like none of us could understand. Even if there was a British kid who likes Future, I doubt he's listening to Future because he is taking a lot of Xannies and stuff like that. That makes sense.
Interesting.
That's the one thing I can think of.
Country music's like that too.
Yeah, country. Yeah,
like,
I guess so. Yeah.
Like, I did a review of this the other day, but I really love the album. It's by Alice Wallace, but one of the songs, she's just like, take a motorcycle ride and think about things. I was just like, that's not a thing to do. Like, you don't just get on your motorbike and start thinking and pondering about your life. So I was just like,
not in the UK.
Yeah. So it's just little things like that every so often. What I hear in a country album, I'm just like, okay, that's interesting. That's not something I've ever thought of doing, but I might buy a tractor. You never know.
but
yeah, good for you. Yeah.
But then again, like country, when I think of country, I think of Texas, like as specific parts of the. I think of specific parts of the US when I think of country music. So.
Right.
It's that's possibly even a block for a lot of other people coming from the US. People who aren't familiar with that kind of lifestyle. So it's not even just limited to the US. It's limited to states and stuff like that.
That's true, definitely.
But yeah, you're right. Like country music. So some things in country music, it's like Townes Van Zandt, who's my favorite country artist of all time, and he's in his track Colorado, which is on his self-titled album. He talks about he just talks about traveling down to Colorado to find this girl, he is really in love with. And I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna. I couldn't travel down to Basingstoke and find out this girl. I think is really fit. You know what I mean? Like it's just. I guess it's just the linguistics. It's just the way they the words sound. Traveling down to Colorado on like the back of a truck or maybe the back of a horse or something like that to find your love is such a romantic thing.
Yeah.
But in the UK, it will not go down well. You're going to be traveling down on a Northern Rail line train, and you're going to get off the train. You're going to have paid about 25 quid, absolute rip-off, to see this girl who you think is really fit, to find out that she's kissing some other guy at the train station or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't sound romantic.
No.
It could be.
Needs more horses.
It needs more horses, and it needs more... it needs more horses, essentially. Yeah. So
funny.
there's that in that sense, country music is also a not something we could quite grasp.
Yeah, for sure.
But we like anyway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, guys, we've been talking for quite a while. So do you reckon we should wrap up? Wrap up? Yeah.
It's
Sure thing.
I will be sad too, though, because this has been one of my favorite podcasts we've done.
Oh, that's
I think.
nice. That is very nice.
I'm gonna miss this.
I'm gonna miss this
I'm gonna
moment.
miss this.
I'm gonna miss us.
I'm gonna miss the mic issues.
Yep.
Mic issues, yeah.
Wow.
So beautiful.
Yeah. I'm gonna miss the Black Eyed Peas.
Yeah.
Yeah, damn, 100%. I'm gonna miss Bottoms Up.
Yeah, bottoms
Boy,
up, man.
Boy,
I need to check that
Yes.
out.
Boy, West Coast. Boy, West Coast. Rapping.
Amazing. But yes, thank you for everyone that's been listening. Thank you, MicTheSnare, for joining us on the podcast today. It's been very good.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having
Yes.
us.
Ugh.
It's a real blast.
Been great.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, anytime, man. Anytime.
Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. Hope you've enjoyed this podcast, and we will be back. I don't know when, because it might be 4 months again. It might be 5 months. It could be 2 weeks. That's the beauty of the podcast. Thank you for listening, guys. Have a good day, and goodbye. Goodbye. Bye.
Should I stop recording now? Okay.